Hello, everybody. Dan DeFedericis of Saratoga Report. I've got a special guest today, and I'm going to have a little bit of a history here for you folks, because in 1969, the late John T. Roohan started what is now Roohan Realty. 10 years later, his son, Tom, earned his real estate license and started at the family business in 1979. Today, Tom Realty is owned by Tom Roohan. He's the broker owner, and they have over 50 real estate associates and professional staff, widely respected firm in Saratoga Springs and beyond. Tom Roohan is here with us today. Tom, thank you for joining us. And how are you doing with this crazy weather we've had for the past week?
I'm great, Dan. Looking forward to the holiday weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one. You know, a quick story. Last time I recall a 4-day holiday weekend for 4th of July, I was living in Albany, and I drove here 4 times over the 4-day holiday weekend. And I said, that's it. I'm moving to Saratoga. That's where I want to wake up in the morning. And that was 2005. And by the following year, I owned a condo on Union Avenue right next to apparently where Roohan Realty was 40 years ago. And I was at 56 Union. I think you guys were at 48 Union.
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, good. Well, hey, let's jump right into it, because there's things beyond the weather that's been volatile, and that's been the economy, and that's been the housing prices. Although they've housing prices have oddly gone up, even as interest rates have gone up. And historically, Tom, I think you would be able to tell me more about that than I know. But generally, one goes up, the other goes down. But they seem to be housing prices, especially here in the Capital District, and extra especially here in Saratoga County, are just going up and holding their value, right?
Certainly true. I mean, we've seen many interest rates over my career. The most recent ones were the lowest, and in the early 80s, the highest. People were paying 17% interest, fixed for 15 years, and really happy to get that rate at that time. So that some people, older people like myself, to spend 5.5% or 6% on interest on a home purchase is not horrible. It's not as great as it was, but it's still better than many. I mean, my first house was 8 3/4, and the next two were 12.5%. So that would slow things down if we went to that kind of environment. But this environment, I think people have adjusted. I hope the Fed takes some time, takes a deep breath, and lets the economy adjust, because certainly they made, I think the number might be like 10 adjustments to the Fed rate. And I would argue that was a lot too fast, because it took a very long time for it to go down, and they're really hitting the accelerator to go up. So I'd like to see them hit the pause button myself.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about this ahead of time, that this would be a great time to talk to. Obviously, Saratoga has no shortage of people that are well financed, that can buy a $1 million condo, and that's great, right? We certainly don't have an issue with that. People are beating a path to our town, and obviously we don't want to be overbuilt, but having interest in Saratoga Springs is great. But the modest income people that 10, 15 years ago could afford a home in Saratoga Springs or just outside, to some degree, they're getting priced out. To a large degree, they might be getting priced out. But you and I talked before this, there are still some ways, right, that a modest income person or couple can find a home, either, if not in Saratoga Springs, not too far from Saratoga Springs. Can you talk to us? You've got a lot of knowledge in this industry. Can you guide some people there?
Well, Dan, I think that the thing is to, the internet doesn't have all the answers for you. I think that you have to, if you're looking to buy a new home, you got to develop a team. You have to go to the bank where your checking account is. Go to the bank where your savings account is, and talk to the people in the home loan division there. Talk to people that are mortgage brokers. Develop a relationship with someone that has a lot of tools to help people. Are you a veteran? Are you going to have someone from your family who's had success help you? Maybe your first home might be a 2-family house or a 3-family house, and that is a way to get into the game. Certainly my mother's side of the family, every aunt and uncle I had lived in a 2-family house. It was a way that they were able to get in. They lived on the second floor. They had very nice houses, and that worked. And secondly, I know this is self-serving, but you need to have a realtor because you want to take advantage of their experience in different products, different lending institutions, different locations. It's the location and the quality of the product that drive the price. Now, you mentioned you lived on Union Avenue, and that condo development was not exactly loved when it was talked about, but I think it's a huge success. There's a mix of users there. There's some people it's a second home. There's some people that it's their last home. And for some people, it's their first home. It fills a lot of needs. And I think that was a great asset to the city of Saratoga. But that first home buyer, they have to look. They can't look in those AA locations, those AAA locations. They have to consider other things because they're just starting out. And when I bought my first house, I was working overtime at the construction company that I worked at to save money and try to live under my control my expenses and try to increase my income in any way that I could. And for me, you work construction. If they give you overtime, that's the way to make the money. And try to save it and build that little nest egg, and then look at the programs that work for you. Do you have any student debt? Do you have children? Do you need to be close to schools? Do your children have special needs that are only available in some school districts? There's a lot of things to figure out. And that's why I say you need to have the finance person and the realtor helping you find the right spot. Maybe you find a nice affordable house in South Corinth that has a view of the Hudson River, close access to hiking, and it fits into your price range. You spend a little more money on gas. So you don't drive a Ford F-250 pickup with 38-inch tires. Instead, you drive a Prius. And, you control your expenses so that these things are available to you. And so that's what we've seen. Some people are lucky enough that their families will help them. Some use the investment property opportunity. You might find a nice 2-family in Ballston Spa that is a good first house. You create equity there, and then maybe buy a single-family home after that and keep that asset, manage that asset to help your net worth grow. So there's a lot of different tools, FHA, VA, some banks, Adirondack Trust, Saratoga National, they hold mortgages in-house, which are interesting products where it's fixed for 5 to 7 to 10 year rate with a longer amortization. So there's a lot of things you got to learn along the way. Do you have skills? Can you buy something that's not picture perfect right out of HGTV? Are you someone who can paint? Are you someone that can frame? Are you someone that can tile? Are you going to watch a couple YouTube videos and figure out how to tile? I mean, that's where people create the sweat equity and value. I think in my lifetime, every home that I've owned, I've either renovated or built from scratch because I do have some skills and I want to leverage them. And that's been good for me.
You mentioned 2 nearby communities that are very commutable to Saratoga Springs, are Corinth and Ballston Spa. I've been to both of them. I spent a lot of time in Ballston Spa. It's sort of an underrated walkable community. I love Saratoga. It's my first choice. But if for whatever reason I couldn't live here in Saratoga, I'd probably go to Ballston Spa. My question to you is, are there any other gems of communities that the modest income home buyer might want to take a look at that's still pretty close to Saratoga?
I think our county really benefits from a lot of good school districts that, long ago, someone might say, I don't want to go to school district ABC because they have a high teacher to student ratio. They don't have many sports programs. They don't have this, they don't have that. Today, Schuylerville, Ballston Spa, Saratoga, Stillwater, all Corinth, all very good school districts, a lot of good programs. So I think that for many people, that's not a big deal, the school district, because we have so many quality school districts in our county. Now, if you went to Caroline Street School as a young man and you want your children to go there, that's a whole different story. You want to go there because you want your children to go there. You want to live in that district. That's a different thing. But I think we have a lot of fabulous options here. And the hardest part is to put that package together, make a couple compromises, and get in the game. The key thing is to get in the game. We're dealing with a lot of clients that are disappointed they haven't gotten in the game because now the interest rates have effectively doubled. So imagine your disappointment. The average selling price is creeping up, but your cost of borrowing has gone up by like 50%, 60%. So you're getting less house for the same payment that you would have gotten 2.5 years ago because you didn't compromise. And,
Right.
Let's face it, Dan, we're old enough to know that life is full of compromises. I'd love to eat filet every night, but I don't think my wife would go for that. You know what I'm saying? And so life is full of compromises. And I think that's the mistake first-time home buyers make, is that they hold tight to their dream, tight to high standards, and then they're not in the game. They don't buy a house because they're too demanding.
That is a great point, and it's something that some people need to hear. And I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you were that pointed in it, to understand that. You touched on a couple of ways that people, and you put out FHA, and obviously if you're a veteran, for someone that's just brand new to thinking about buying a house, could you touch on almost an elevator speech level FHA and it's the siblings there? What exactly is that, and how could that benefit a modest income person?
Well, it helps with the fact, you could be a high earner, but not have a lot of cash right now. You had to, you just moved here, you had to pay off some school loans, medical bills, whatever, but you're making good salaries. So FHA and VA, VA is very different. It's it's specifically to support our veterans. And if you go to someone, I don't think I'll give too big of a plug, but if you go to someone at Homestead Funding, they're known for how they do their VA loans, as far as I'm concerned. They do a great job. They're veteran focused. But these VA FHA loans, they have a little more criteria. The house has to have certain things that they demand, whether it's the age of the roof or when it's going to need its next paint job, because they don't want their low down payment people to find themselves in a pinch to maintain their house. So their appraisal process would be different than if you went to the Adirondack Trust Company. But regardless, I think it's a good program. And when you talk to someone about it, it gives you options. And that gets you in. And their rates are good, they're competitive, and they're fixed for long periods of time.
Great, thank you. I'm you've been subtle here, but you are giving us your time. You're an advertiser on Saratoga Report. I think highly of your firm. I have your website up there, roohanrealty.com. For those of you that, to use Tom's words, get in the game. I had a good friend who was a realtor 15, 16 years ago when I first moved here, and it wasn't so much an issue of money. I just didn't want to cut grass. And I was like, no, I want to rent. And he kept coming at me, and I got mad at him. I was getting mad at him. And to this day, I thank him for getting me in the game.
Yep.
I've been a homeowner ever since. And I don't like cutting grass because I've moved beyond condos, but I am happy to be a homeowner, but I do cut grass. I do cut the grass. Actually, I don't mind it that much.
Well, it can be therapeutic too.
Yes, true.
And of course, you make a good point, Dan, about rental versus purchase. When you purchase, the governments and the IRS support the purchase process. They give you that deduction for those real property taxes, for the interest that you pay during a year. So, and you're always building equity, whether it's the fact that you're reducing the debt with your monthly payments and or the fact that the market is appreciating. You're maintaining your home or condo and the value is going up because of the way you're maintaining it. And the choices that you make every day in and around the home or condo or two family or whatever it is.
Excellent. Tom, I'm thinking here. I'm gonna add my email up here, folks. I'm gonna ask Tom to come back because this is important stuff. And if you've got an issue on real estate, whether it's a topic or a specific question for Tom, I'm just gonna keep annoying him until he comes back. My email is up on the screen here. Hit me an email and we could hit a topic or we can hit a certain question, or maybe Tom could just have somebody direct email you back an answer. So please do that, because you're nearly 50 years of experience, your firm 55 years almost. That's invaluable, and I thank you for coming here today and sharing your knowledge with us. This is important stuff. Real estate is always going to be a big issue in this city, always, always, always. So I'd like to have you back sooner rather than later, Tom, and we talk about some more things related to real estate in Spa City.
This is my first podcast, Dan. Thank you, and I'll come back anytime you call me.
Excellent.
Enjoy
Excellent.
conversations with you.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this immensely as well. Thank you, Tom. Take care, folks.